Well, good morning and welcome to Speaking of Gas. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a look at what matters to you, the owners of oil and gas rights in Pennsylvania. It's brought to you by the Gas Well Guru and educating and advocating for the landowner. The webcast is recorded and can be viewed on my channel. If you Google Jackie Root, you should find it. Questions and answers. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, there's a box with 9 dots and that says meeting tools, and you can type questions in there. I will take a look at it from time to time, but for the most part, I'll answer questions at the end. Okay, so this week, looking over our Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Facebook page, I see a lot of questions on there. Questions that aren't easily answered there in short answers. This Facebook page has grown to about 7,400 followers now, which is pretty extraordinary for our organization. And we have a couple of people that post. They are volunteers. So they're not being paid to provide the information, but rather putting it up there to share with other people who own oil and gas rights here in the state. A lot of times there are questions, and the answers that are provided are kind of general. When people ask questions about their specific situation, they're not most likely going to get an answer. Sometimes the information that's put up is kind of random. Sometimes it centers around the production reports that come out on the 15th of the month. And I've looked at those questions, and I think I can provide some information for people who have been following that site and maybe looking for more. Our organization, if you're not familiar with it, Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Alliance, we provide meetings, resources, networking for landowners, and I certainly would encourage you to take a look at that and join. I am the membership director of POGLA, but I will say on here, this is not a POGLA presentation. This is the Gas Well Guru. This is my opinions and my information. So I'm going to start out today and take a quick look at the maps that show where the oil and gas drilling is. We get a lot of questions about where is my county, particularly when they're sharing production information. Where's my county in that? Well, the unconventional oil and gas development, which is most of what we cover. Not that the other isn't important, but the vast majority of our members have unconventional or shale wells. This map, this DEP map, shows the extent of shale development, and you can see we have a concentration up here in the northeast, concentration in the southwest, and then a smattering of wells through the middle. But generally, it follows this area. You can see in here we have the Allegheny Front, the mountain ridge. Beyond that, we're not expecting to see any development over here for geologic reasons. So in the shale development, we're looking at this swath. You do see some wells up here in the northwest region. I've seen that asked lately. What about us up here in Crawford, Warren counties? Whether the shale is going to be viable, how productive, we don't know. Right now, they're concentrating in what you would call the core areas. Over in here, we've got very thick shale. Actually, it's a stacked play developing in multiple layers of the Marcellus shale. Over in here, we've got a lot of Utica development, Marcellus development in here, and then down in the southwest, we see both Marcellus and a lot of Utica. It's this region where we see some wet gas. And also, we are seeing the Burkett Formation, Genesee Formation, sometimes they'll call it. And we see in both of these areas. So, this is the map. You can zoom in on it. You can zoom in on details of specific wells. And the further you zoom in, when you have multiple well pads, when you zoom way in on that, okay, it's not cooperating here. I went too far one way or the other. Let's see, it's not going to let me. Okay, we'll just zoom in here. You zoom all the way in on a given well pad. Here's one that has multiples. And as you zoom in, and forgive me for this, it's not letting me stay on one. You're actually going to zoom in and see individual wells. And then you also can click on those wells and pull up. Yeah, in my screen here, it's not working as well as it could. You can zoom in and pull up individual information for that specific well and click on that. And let's see, somebody's wanting to join that. I'm not able to let in. Okay. Then the other thing that you can do with this map, and maybe if I go out to the actual map, I can make this happen. Yeah, okay, you can still see that. Here's where we can zoom in on the individual wells. So here you can see 2 sets of wells proposed on that site. And then you can click in and get individual information for each well within that site. Now, this is all the active unconventional wells. Then if you switch up what you've selected, now we're going to look at a map of the unconventional wells. And you can see that this looks much different, but here they are. And as we zoom out, you're going to see where the concentration of those wells are. And again, you can zoom in on these and get very specific information. So this shows the production or the wells drilled all over the entire state. And there's a lot of data behind this. So each month on our Facebook page, you will see the monthly production report. The monthly production report comes out on the 15th of the month, and the information contained in that is good for the day that you're looking at. It can be changed any time. There's no verification of what's put up there. The companies are required to report these unconventional wells monthly, but they can change it at any time, and that does happens frequently. There's a lot of information included in this report. And let me see if I switch to this one. I can. Okay. What you see on the screen right now is the top wells. I sorted it from the highest producing well to the lowest. Now, tomorrow, the August 15th report will come out, and that will be for the June production. This is May production. So this is the report as it comes off from the DEP site, and you can see all the information that's contained in it. The county, let's see, let me get yes, you can see my mouse. Okay, the county, the township, the permit number, the name of the well, month of production, and then as you go across, here's the gas quantity produced for that month. That's an MCF. This is the days that were reported. So when you look at this first one, it was in production 17 days. And when we scroll over to the spud date, you'll see that that well was started in August of 2024. And so this may have just come online. You don't know that, but you just know it didn't produce the whole 31 days. And as you scroll down, you'll see various days on different wells. There's another Ridenour well down here, and also 17 days. It kind of looks like they put them all on at the same time, and obviously they're not all right together. They vary in production. As you scroll across this page, you'll see a lot more information. If this well was producing condensate or oil, you would see production numbers in there. Here's another important date, is the spud date. And that's when the well was first drilled. And then this final date, when I talked about, whether they provided data on the 15th of the month, in this case, these were Chesapeake or Expand wells, and they published their information on the 10th. So it was a little early. You'll see theirs on the 22nd, Coterra well. And when you go on there, you can pull up a report for the missing wells. Range is quite notably late in reporting for whatever reason. And so it's important information if those are the particular wells you're looking for. Also, there's this column that says MMCF per day. And that's one that I insert. And on the Facebook page, you'll notice the person that puts those up, which is not me typically, unless he's AWOL, and I might do it. But this is where we put a calculation in the spreadsheet that compares the wells apples to apples. So it's saying in those 17 days, you take this production, it produced 51.9 million cubic feet a day. And again, apples to apples, we have to figure the production on this well over 31 days. So we come up with a number that's a number that you will hear when they report production for a particular well to compare them. This well, this is a number they'll talk about for an initial production that the well produced maybe over 24 hours. It flowed 51 million cubic feet over 24 hours. So it's just to compare wells. When publicly traded companies put wells online, they typically are throwing these numbers out as an indication to their investors what kind of wells they have. And people often, in that production report that we're posting on POGLA, on the POGLA Facebook page, people are saying, well, what about Butler County? What about this county? We post the top 25 wells, and you'll see in a minute why you're not seeing all the wells on there. And if, let's say, Butler County's initial well production doesn't make the top 25, you won't see it. Or if those wells are all in a later stage of production, you'll also not see them on this report. And so here on this report, this will look similar to what you'll see on Facebook. I've taken right here is the top 26 wells, and I've included in this report the million cubic feet per day, the spud date. So the Ridenour wells, you can see they were spud in 2024. Down here in Greene County, these EQT wells were spud in 2022. It doesn't tell you when they came online. You can pull up an individual report for a well and get a cumulative production report that you can then manipulate and create a report that shows what the decline curve is looking like on that particular well. Okay, and then here, this, if you keep scrolling down, eventually you'll get to some of these other counties that people are looking for. There's I saw Lycoming County in there. Eventually you'll get to some of these other ones. Tioga County, you don't normally see in those very top wells, although we are seeing some production numbers around 30 million a day and on these long laterals that are being drilled, and new technology. Okay, the next thing that we'll take a look at is the permits by county. And, we're getting lots of questions about, drill baby drill. Are they going to be drilling a lot more wells? Is it going to be getting more active? Interestingly, if you look at this map that's up behind me, this is a map of Tioga County, and it shows, it's not a current map, it's a few years old, shows units developed in the county. I've had this at my county fair a number of years, and people will stop by the booth and they'll say, well, when are they ever coming back? And it's interesting that people, unless the drilling's right outside their door, very often they don't know what's happening. Drilling has become much more orderly, and I'm still trying to add somebody into this call that's trying to call in. Sometimes there we go. Sometimes multitasking here is difficult on the one-woman show. So drilling has gotten a lot more orderly. You see a lot less water trucks on the road. Very often, if it's not happening right in front of you, you don't even know it's happening. So the drilling never stopped since the frenzy of, let's say, 2008, but you see a little less of it. I recently toured a well site with Seneca Resources. We toured an active drilling site, and then a completed site that was in production and about to drill new wells on that site, and then a compressor station. And what really struck me, going back to, 2007 or 8, I went on rig tours, and we had a well drill on our property, and, things were much different. The laterals were shorter. We were talking about 3,000 to 5,000 foot laterals. Now we're talking, Chesapeake just drilled a 37,000 foot lateral in Ohio. Seneca actually has one permitted, I think, at 23,000 feet in Tioga County. And so the footprint is much smaller, and the wells reach a lot further. We have secondary and tertiary containment on all the well pads surrounding all the equipment on the site. The pads are completely lined, and the idea of a spill escaping the website or the well site is much, much less than it was in the beginning. So major improvements is one big thing that I got out of that. These increases in technology, getting so much more gas, cutting down drilling times, reducing emissions, it's all happening out there, and I'm excited to see that. So people are saying, so when are they going to drill on me? Are they going to drill more wells? Are there going to be more rigs? Well, what I'm seeing in the rig counts, there was recently a report by Baker that compared 2024 to 2025, and oil rigs were down by 79, which was really interesting. And gas rigs were up by 31. So they seem to be, the drill baby drill is going more towards the gas and less towards the oil. As the oil price becomes depressed, they tend to drill less. And then, it's just such a complicated, woven process. So what you do in one area affects another area. If they reduce rigs in the Permian Basin where they're producing associated gas with the oil, you reduce the oil drilling, and then that gas production goes down. Maybe that increases what we're going to attempt to develop here in the Northeast. It's just complicated, I guess. And I also noticed as the rigs were declining on oil in the U.S., they were increasing in Canada. So it's all dynamic. This report is from DEP, and this is permits issued. And so this is where, people are saying, well, when are they going to drill this county? When are they going to drill this county? This shows all the counties where there is drilling and the permits issued for year to date in 2025. And so you can see the list of counties is pretty long. I think there's about 34, oh no, that's states, 34 producing states. I don't have the number of producing counties off the top of my head. This report, you look at Allegheny alphabetically down to Fayette, it's all gas. You get to Forest County, you see combination oil and gas, and then oil wells. And Greene and Indiana are just gas. Lackawanna County, there's an observation well. When this one popped up, it was like, oh, what are they doing out there? Because typically we're seeing that there's not going to be gas production there. But that observation well is for possibly a carbon sequestration well, and it's near a landfill owned by the DeNapolis. So that's what that's about. It's a deep well. And then Lycoming County, we've got gas. Go out to McKean County, you see oil and you see a storage well. And so that's been in the news that they're drilling, oh, wait a minute, storage well. Maybe that's not what I was thinking. I guess I would have to look. Whether that storage well is typically injection well is called that. But they are looking at injection wells out there. And there are gas storage fields out there, so it could be that as well. And then Sullivan County, gas, Susquehanna, Tioga, Warren County, combination oil and gas and oil. And so you see there are new permits out there, 64 new oil permits in Warren County. Long-time oil production area. Washington County, a storage well there, and gas wells, Westmoreland and Wyoming gas wells. So year to date, a total of 506 wells. Now these other two columns show the first one is conventional, 117. And then the second column is unconventional, that's a shale, 389. And then down here, I took the 24 numbers, and last year there was a total of 716. We're a little more than halfway through the year, but it looks like the number may be up. Conventional was 187, unconventional 526 total. So it may be that we're going to be up a few wells in 2025. Okay. Next on this, I'm going to look at the rig counts. I have, okay, this was a report that was put together and posted on our Facebook page. And this is a rig count comparison from 2023 to 2025, comparing the same date in August. So in 2023, you look at, we had 21 rigs operating in Pennsylvania. It went down to in 2024 to 15 rigs, and now it's back up to 20. The interesting thing to me about the rig counts is that if you compare this to, you go way back to 2028, we were looking at a number of weeks, sometimes a month, to drill one horizontal well. Now we're looking at days to drill the horizontal lateral. Now that's just drilling that lateral. So we can drill a lot more, they can drill a lot more wells with less rigs. So we're actually looking at a pretty robust rig number, and considering the number of wells that they can drill with those rigs, we're probably way ahead there. And so we have seen an uptick in the rig numbers. And again, the things I'm putting up here have a lot to do with the questions that a lot of our followers are asking on the Facebook page. We doubled in the number of followers recently, and the number of people entering in the discussion is way up. And the questions have been good, and the discussion has been respectful, and we definitely appreciate that. So another thing that we get asked about is tracking what's happening in my area. How do I know if there's a well going in near me? How do I know if that lateral going in near me is going to affect my property? So there's a lot of resources available on the DEP website. And though I'm not going to go in great detail here, it's pretty easy to navigate the DEP website. There were some big changes to it and how it looked this year, but the good news was everything was essentially still there and in a decent form. This format didn't change so much that you were lost. One of the things that our organization does for you, there was a major change made, I don't know if it was a year ago or more, in these monthly production reports. And they might have thought it was a good change. They didn't think they were leaving anything out. But when I looked at the data that we want to get off from here as landowners, it was going to create a major issue. And so I know I contacted DEP and explained why this was going to be problematic. I don't know how many other people did, but they did make some changes. It didn't take a lot, but we kept that data in a form that was useful to us as landowners. And so having, POGLA and all the people that interact there, it's all of us that interact with each other are typically POGLA members. And, it's like, hey, is the website down? Did you see the changes they made? And a lot of times there's more than one of us making those calls. So here is the oil and gas website where you can find a wealth of information. And when you go into the reports and select specifically oil and gas reports, you're going to pull up this whole list of links to available reports. The interactive maps, the links are right here at the top. Oil and gas electronic submissions, I'm going to talk about area of review summaries. That's where they're going to be contained, as well as a wealth of other information. And then there's a dictionary here on the top. If you're not familiar with terms or specifically what they provide on the site, that's extremely useful. Here's where I got the permits issued information, inventories by operators, plugged well reports. Skipping down, you'll find the oil and gas production reports. Right there's where we go to get those reports that you're seeing us post. And you can get that well data, again, by individual well, and that's very useful. So you want a cumulative report. You want to be able to look at your depletion allowance or your depletion curve. That's where you can produce a report to do that. You also have the ability to look at inspection reports on here if you have any concerns there. A lot of detail there. So one of the things that you'll find in these e-notices, and I'm only going through a limited amount of detail about how to get to this information. There is on our POGLA members only section links to all these reports, which is very helpful. This is an area of review summary that was recently posted on the Facebook page. And this is interesting information for a number of reasons. One, this is a preliminary report. This is something that they have to file before they get a permit. And they're going to show a proposed well, and then they're going to show all the wells that exist within 1,000-foot buffer of that well. Excuse me. So that's what this red line is. And when you're looking at distances, this one, if you're used to looking at location plats like this, where a Utica well has a 330-foot buffer around the well, this is a 1,000-foot buffer. So it's a much larger area. So if you didn't know that, you might think these were a typical length, but these are actually very, very long laterals here. And you probably, some of you I know would remember when there were some early wells drilled and there were blowouts, and that meant that they fracked a well and there was an old abandoned well, an open well bore with the annulus open to the surface, and the frac intersected with it, and the fluids under pressure blew out. So they wanted to identify those wells ahead of time. And for instance, we had an old well on our property, and when the company discovered that, I actually asked them, well, you know, what about this well that right across the road? There's the well bore goes right underneath it. And they actually, this was before the first blowout, they actually weren't aware of that well. And in a couple of days, they came back and said, hey, we're going to plug that. So, and they did. They went back and plugged it according to modern specifications to avoid that issue. So that's what they're doing here. So you may have signed papers that say, that ask you, are you aware of any abandoned wells on or near your property? So this is the area of review summary that you can get in that e-submission site. This will give you a heads up about a proposed well and whether it actually might affect your property. So that's something that's publicly available. We talked about the individual well data that's available. And the e-submissions. When we had the map up, when most information for new wells is now available pretty easily. So when we look at this map again, and let me go back to the unconventional wells. And again, you zoom in on a well, and if I'm lucky enough to pick up, let's zoom in on a newer pad here with multiple wells. Okay, that's new. About 2015, they started putting all the information for wells on the DEP site. So I subscribe to something called IRIS, where, you know, if you ever needed historical data on wells where the location plats weren't available on here, I can get that for you easily and quickly. But if you zoom in on a particular well and you bring up the authorization documents, you can zoom in and actually pull up the well location plat for that well and then see if that well bore is going to intersect with or come near your property. And yeah, this may not load fast enough for that to happen with me doing it like this. But if you scroll down through all the documents on here, and actually share this tab instead. Okay, here's the document, and it isn't loading them all, but this shows the surface location. And as we get down through this document, it will show the well bore. Now, some companies don't put all your parcels on that. It's just a line on a map. We've got EQT doing that, Range Resources, Greylock Energy, And that's problematic for you as a landowner. That's something we're also looking at as an organization to get you complete information. But I kind of digress there. But that's another tool to find out how the oil and gas drilling, proposed drilling, will affect you. Another question that came up, kind of the last one that I'll cover, and it was interesting. Someone brought up Chesapeake, and they mentioned Chesapeake and Expand. And they said, you know, it was a good thing that Expand took over Chesapeake. Well, here's the real scoop on that. We have lots of mergers and acquisitions. In that particular one that happened over, I guess, maybe beginning of last year, maybe it's been longer. When you talk about things in gas years, it seems like a very long time. Chesapeake acquired Southwestern Energy. And then after a bit, they announced the new name of the company, operated by the same people as Chesapeake, changed the name to Expand. So Chesapeake didn't really go away. They changed the name. You know, we saw that happen. Fortuna used to be in New York, Tioga County, and they were owned by Talisman. Then they changed their name for their operations to Talisman here. And then Repsol bought Talisman, whole new company operated by Repsol. In this case, Expand is Chesapeake. And one thing you'll notice with that is permitting is still happening under the name Chesapeake and Southwestern. In the areas where those companies were originally, they're still permitting in those names. But that's just an FYI there. So, you know, I've answered some questions on here that have come up on our Facebook page. We aren't giving real detailed information necessarily about your specific properties, but there are places to get that information. And, you know, POGLA is, if you're a member, a lot of times we get phone calls and I'll answer things in some detail. As a business, R&R Energy Consulting, that is the gas well guru, who is me. I do consulting with landowners all the time. Is this well gonna, am I gonna be unitized into this well? Are they draining my property with this well? I'm not leased. My lease has expired, or I think it's expired. What's my status? I do that kind of thing all the time. What I want to wrap up with is POGLA, Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Landowner Alliance. We are a network of people like you that own oil and gas rights across Pennsylvania. We have this network where people have made connections through our in-person meetings, and they're a resource for each other. We are a resource. If a member calls and they need a referral to an attorney or an appraiser or whatever, we'll try to find them that information. If you're collecting, if you are collecting royalties and you filed your taxes this year and didn't claim depletion on your Pennsylvania return, you missed out on a deduction. If you did, you can thank us for it. We lobbied to have Pennsylvania allow the depletion allowance to be deducted on the state return. Prior to 2024, it was only allowed on the federal, and only cost depletion was allowed on PA. So that's something that POGLA did for you directly. And we have a lobbyist in Harrisburg. We're actively working on new legislation now. And we are the only organization representing your interest in Harrisburg. We have an annual meeting in State College. We had about a dozen speakers this year, covered a lot of topics, great interaction, raised a lot of money for our lobbyists, and that's an ongoing effort. And then we also will be having fall meetings. We have coffee shop meetings out in the local areas. You can expect Tioga County will have one the end of September, first part of October. The date will be announced soon. The only way to really stay up on that is to be a POGLA member. And we do have a newsletter that comes out. I'm the editor. It's sort of weekly, a little more frequent, a lot more frequent than Speaking of Gas. But we have information of interest to you and information from our members we post on there. I just can't say enough about it. The basic membership is $75 a year, best money you'll have ever spent. And it's really important that we all work together to protect our interest. So I went a little longer than I usually do today. I was excited to do this. We got a lot of new followers that are following Speaking of Gas as a result of this post on the Facebook page. Thanks for joining me today. The same link will work each time I do a webinar. And if you have subscribed, you'll get a notice each time I'm going to do a webinar and a reminder first thing in the morning so you can find the link right away. All these webcasts are up on YouTube. This one will be as soon as I have it ready. Watch your email for the next one and join POGLA. And I will check my question and answer. I didn't see any pop up. And I don't see any in there. I do see a raised hand. And Mark, let's see. Mark, you can type a question in there. I made you a contributor, so if you turn on your microphone, you may actually be able to ask it.
Hey, can you hear me?
Okay. Go ahead, Mark. I'm not hearing you.
I did not join. I'm sorry. I'll wait until you tell me to go.
What contributor share? Well, it looks like you may be speaking and you're not muted, but I'm not hearing you. Can you type the question in the question and answer space? Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to have success there, Mark. It looks like you're muted. Well, I think I see something. I see a chat. Oh, okay. The question is about lithium. And that's a great question, Mark. Let's see here. Let me get back. Okay. Lithium, that's in all the news. We are hoping to have someone to cover that at our fall meetings, and whether it's someone directly from one of the lithium extraction companies or possibly someone from Penn State to talk about it. You know, lithium is a complicated thing. Anything they're taking out of the ground under our properties, we want to be paid for. The way, you know, they're not going down there and mining lithium, so to speak. They're going down and drilling for gas, and with the flowback water comes lithium. And then that flowback water is brought out and it's reused. The Northeast was, I think, a pioneer in reusing frack water to reduce the amount of fresh water use. So I think all water gets recycled into other frack jobs to a point where it can't be anymore. And then that is taken for processing to extract the salt from it and extract the lithium. They produce, I know in one case I toured a plant where they were producing salt that would be used in swimming pools. And then in the end, hopefully coming out with pure water. Now, about, I don't know, 6 years ago, I toured a plant in Wyalusing, and they were doing the lithium extraction. It was, they weren't getting a lot. Their comments were, it was a new process, and they were getting small amounts, and it was very expensive, et cetera. Now they're building 2 plants in Susquehanna County to do this. And what the quantity is going to be, I don't know. Bob Burnett of Houston Harbaugh did a piece on it, and I hate to say I haven't had a chance to read that yet. It came out right before our county fair, and I need to. I think they talked some about the quantities, but keep in mind now we're going to take that water from all these wells. We're going to reuse it. And then at some point we're going to take that and process it to extract the lithium. So who all that lithium belongs to? I want to say that's the $1 million question. I don't know if it's going to be $1 million. It's going to be $1 million question for someone. Very valuable. What quantity, I think, is a question mark, and how they allocate that back. I have talked to at least one company that was looking at that from the royalty perspective. So that's where it's at. It's new. We're definitely looking at it. He just commented, I sent a suggestion to our local legislators to write legislation to protect both the state and landowners, maybe similar to what Arkansas did this spring. Yes, we're definitely looking at anything that other states are doing. We're never into reinventing the wheel. Reinventing the wheel. So in our legislative process, we will be looking at that and reviewing any legislation that someone proposes. And then sometimes we look to have legislation written ourselves. Okay, those were, I'll just check and see if there are any other questions. Thanks for that question, Mark. Okay, I don't see any other questions here. So I'm going to say thanks for participating, and watch for my email for our next broadcast.